armadillo. Most of us in the United States are probably familiar with the armadillos that you'd see down in Texas or Florida. Those are the 9-banded armadillos, coincidentally about 3 times larger than the armadillo. So you can see right now he's closed up. This part right here is the top of his head. This part right here is his tail. Pretty amazing how it fits tightly together for him to close his shell all the way up.
It really does. There's just the tiniest space here.
Yep. Now, just like you have a unique fingerprint, armadillos have a unique pattern of their shell on top of their head. So that's pretty amazing. Now, it's hard to see them right now, but we're going to use the power of Facebook Live. I have a question for the people watching. We have 2 animals in the zoo that are related to the armadillo. So what are the guesses of the closest relatives to the armadillo?
All right, guys, give us your answers. Let us know what you think the closest relatives to the armadillo are. And remember, it's animals we have here at the zoo.
We have 3 individuals, two of one species and 1 of a different species.
Awesome. Well, while we wait for those answers to come in, talk to us about this hard shell. And is it okay if I touch it?
You definitely can touch.
All right.
So even though it's covered in a hard shell, an armadillo is a mammal. These are not reptile scales. This is a covering that's more similar to our fingernails. Mm-hmm. So it's a hard covering that helps protect. We still would call it a shell, but it's completely different than a turtle shell. So armadillo shells provide the same type of protection. In fact, the 3-banded armadillo, when it's closed up like this, it only has to worry about the largest of predators. We're talking crocodiles and jaguars. Everything else, it's a pretty impenetrable shell. So that's pretty amazing.
So it is quite hard. And you said it's like our fingernails. So is it made out of keratin like our fingernails?
These are actually technically what's called osteoderms. So there's a little bit of bone in there, but it's keratin and bone.
Very cool. All right, we're getting some guesses in here. Let me scroll back here. Grayson guessed a hedgehog.
Well, a hedgehog's a really good guess, but it's not a hedgehog.
Nope. Chrissy says crocodile.
Crocodile's a good guess, but that's a reptile. They both have kind of a bumpy covering, but it's not a crocodile either.
Kelsey's guessing an aardvark.
Ooh, we're getting much closer now, but we don't have an aardvark here at the zoo.
Emma, age 6, says turtle.
Not a turtle, even though they both have shells.
All right. How about Aaron Aaron typed in for Felix that says Komodo Dragon.
No, we're you know what? I intentionally asked this question to stump you. Their relatives don't necessarily look just like them. So the relatives we have here at the zoo, we have 2 sloths, and we have a lesser anteater known as a tamandua. So they are all in the same order of mammals. So their relatives look very different from them. Now, we've seen a lot of them in the shell.
Yes.
He loves to walk around. So we have a little arena set up for him. Let's see what he'll do when he's set down.
All right, and while we do that, let's take a couple questions here. Will wants to know, what's the difference between an armadillo and an aardvark?
Sure, an aardvark is a much larger animal, and it doesn't have that shell. An aardvark actually is more similar to an anteater in its look than it would be an armadillo.
All right, and Josephine, age 7, says, how old do banded armadillos get?
Sure. Well, do you know what? We are extremely close to Chris's birthday. He actually was born March 26th, so next week he's going to be 10.
Wow.
These armadillos can live about 20 years.
Very nice. Scarlett, age 6, wants to know, why do they roll up in a ball, Josh?
That's a great question. Curling up is a defense mechanism. They also sleep kind of semi-curled. So since I've been holding him a little, he might be a little bit shy, a little bit unsure, but we're going to see him pop out, hopefully, and walk around and explore what we've set up for him. So curling up is a way of protecting. Now, if you look in this arena, we have boxes and shredded paper and all sorts of things. This is a form of enrichment for the armadillo, so he can explore. When he comes out, you're going to see his front claws are very large. They use those to dig for the food that they eat. They're an insectivore, so they eat primarily insects. And they need those to dig open logs, dig under the ground, and find things. All right, we're
starting
seeing
to
him
emerge.
starting to check out, and you might be able to see his little nose going.
Yes.
When we think of animals, a lot of animals have one sense that is really good. Maybe they have really good eyesight, like a bald eagle. But with the armadillo, they actually have a number of senses that are really good, and one of them is their nose. So they have a good sense of smell, and even though they don't have large ears, they actually have a really good sense of hearing too. So those things combined help them to find insects that are in wood or underground.
That is very cool.
He's checking it out. So a lot of people guess that he's related to a turtle. As he's starting to come out of his shell, you're going to see why he truly is a mammal. Those fine things coming down are his hair. So that hair on the underside works kind of like a cat's whisker, helps him to feel as he's walking around as well. All right, here he is. This is Chris. We're going to see what he does as he kind of cruises around here.
Let's take a couple more questions. Jeff says armadillos can dig really fast, right?
Do you know what? Some armadillos can dig very fast, and there's armadillos that instead of curling up into a ball, that's their defense. They'll go right into the ground by digging fast. There's other armadillos, like the nine-banded, that actually jump as their defense instead of curling up into a ball. So he is a decent digger, but in terms of digging his own home, he waits for a different animal to do that, and then he lives in a hole that they already done.
So cool. Owen, age 6, says, so they take baths, question mark?
They take baths. Do you know what? They might take kind of a little dirt bath, but no, they're not known for taking baths. Although armadillos are actually decent swimmers.
Nikki typed in a question for Brantley, who says, how big do they get?
When we're looking at a full-size three-banded armadillo, he weighs just a few pounds. He's kind of in the medium size. They could get about 9 inches across when they're curled up into a ball. He's a little bit smaller than that, but he is an adult. And not only is he an adult, he is actually a father too. So he's here as part of our breeding program, and he has had a number of offspring here at the zoo, and we partner with other zoos so that when our armadillos breed, he actually was born in Cincinnati, we then can share with other zoos to help other zoos have armadillos to display and educate the people in their region.
That's very cool. That leads right into Catherine's question. Do they have armor as babies?
Do they have armor as babies? They do, but if you think about a human baby, things like fingernails are extremely soft on a human baby, and they harden over time. Same thing is true for a baby armadillo. So the shell is soft, and it hardens over time.
And we've had a couple questions, including this one from Avery and Harper. What do they eat?
What do they eat? They are true insectivores. So insectivores are a type of carnivore. They eat primarily meat. In his case, he eats primarily insects. With that in mind, he's not too choosy when it comes to the type of insect. So we're talking about grubs, worms, bees even. So a lot of different things.
And Lisa says, are they related to roly-polies?
Do you know, they look like a roly-poly. They kind of move around like a roly-poly. I think they move kind of like a wind-up toy, kind of in these little spurts. But no, they're not related to a roly-poly.
And you guys probably can't hear it as well as we can, but his claws tip-tapping on the concrete and the paper and stuff. It's very interesting to not only see him move, but
his front feet actually don't touch the ground. He's walking entirely on those front claws.
let's see. Olivia Mackenzie say, what is his name?
His name is Chris.
Oh, hello. And let's see. Mary says, how old is your youngest armadillo? He's 10, right? Or gonna be 10.
He's going to be 10 next week. Do you know what? I don't have all of the ages of our armadillos memorized, but they have had babies every couple years or so. So less than a year is the youngest.
All right. And Trenton, age 6, wants to know, where do they live?
Where do they live? That's a great question. So this type of armadillo is from South America. It can be found in forested areas and also in grasslands, kind of Brazil, Argentina, Bolivia, that kind of central South America.
And Andrew says, do they sleep in a ball?
Do they sleep in a ball? Yeah, they'll curl up, maybe not as tight as if they were defensive, but they'll curl up to sleep.
And Grace says, what's the shredded paper for?
Oh,
playing in it now.
So as I was starting to say before, this is all enrichment. And enrichment is things that we give our animals to help them behave like they would naturally. So naturally, an armadillo would use its senses to explore. So the shredded paper in these boxes give it an opportunity to explore. And this armadillo, Chris, happens to be very curious. So he likes exploring. He likes going through shredded paper, checking out boxes. Whether he's looking for a place to go to sleep or something to eat, this gives him some activity.
And that leads into our next question. How long do they sleep, and are they nocturnal?
Do you know what? Yes, they are nocturnal, so they're primarily active at night. That doesn't mean that they won't be active during the day. Obviously, it's the day right now. But they primarily are active in the nighttime.
And Penny would like to know if they can still breathe when they're rolled up real tight in that ball.
They can, yeah. Even though they're curled up pretty tight, it is not airtight. So they are able to still breathe, and they can stay in that ball for a long time if they need to.
And Anna, age 3, wants to know, Josh, what makes an armadillo scared?
Ooh, what makes an armadillo scared? Do you know, your guess is as good as mine sometimes, but a predator would definitely scare them. Maybe a new situation. Sometimes when we pick them up, but again, Chris is one of our animal ambassadors. He's used to being out here. Sometimes they curl up in a ball because that's a more comfortable position when we're holding them. So he's definitely a pro at this, as you can see, exploring and used to being held and around people.
And our next question is from Chrissy. Do they like to play with other armadillos?
You know, armadillos are primarily solitary animals. That doesn't mean that they'll never interact with another armadillo, but they are used to living alone.
And Olivia wants to know, what is his favorite food?
Oh, he gets mostly a pellet diet here at the zoo, and that is because if we put a dish full of insects, it could be really hard to tell what he ate and what walked away. So he eats a pellet diet. In the wild, all sorts of insects.
And Jack and Maddie would like to know if he has eyelashes.
Do you know what? Let's see if we can get a close-up view. He does have little hair around. They're not necessarily a prominent eyelash, but yeah, most of the hair that you see is around his face and his underside. Well, like all mammals, they have hair. Their hair actually functions similar to a whisker to help them to feel.
And Leslie says, does he have a tail?
He does have a tail, and that tail helps him to balance. Armadillos can go pretty fast. It also works a little bit like a kickstand when he's trying to curl up or as he's curling into a ball to keep him steady and balanced.
And Sarah wants to know, how old can they get?
So again, Chris will be 10 next week, and armadillos can live up to 20 years.
All right. And what is their favorite thing to play with?
Do you know what? Each armadillo is a little bit different because each armadillo is unique. Chris really likes the boxes and shredded paper combo that we have here. If you've been watching, you can see he goes around. He's not staying in one place too long because he really likes exploring.
Noah wants to know, can you keep an armadillo as a pet?
Do you know, an armadillo would not make a good pet for a number of reasons. They're a wild animal and take special care here at the zoo.
Continuing on here, Emerson and Brody want to know, how much can they weigh?
Oh, do you know, this armadillo weighs just about 3 pounds. So I picked him up again so those of you that are joining in can see what an armadillo looks like. He very well may be involved with their keepers, but again, they're a solitary animal, so for the most part, they're going to stay by themselves.
And Rowan wants to know if they can be different colors.
Different armadillos, different species can be different colors. This type of armadillo is usually kind of this brownish color.
And Randy says, do they mate for life?
Do you know what? Since they are solitary, they do not mate for life. They will mate for a season, and next year they'll split off, and they may find a different mate the next time.
And Brantley wants to know, do they shed their shells?
Well, that's a great question. Do you know, they don't shed their shell in the sense that you're thinking. But these are individuals, and they could grow back a part of their shell. But it's unlikely that they're going to actually shed in the true sense.
Okay. And let's see. Jet wants to know if they bite.
Do you know what? Their mouth is only able to open large enough to get an insect in. They actually even use their tongue to help them get an insect into their mouth. So an armadillo bite would be very rare, but an armadillo sometimes will wait for a predator to check in and see what's going on, and they have been known to shut on the noses of predators. Now, if you can imagine shutting your hand in a car door, your hand is pretty durable. Your nose is not nearly as durable as your hand. So that's a much stronger defense than any bite that an armadillo could have. They let the predator check them out, and then they close. Texas, Florida, those kinds of areas.
Very nice. And Olivia Kane and Phoenix want to know, how long is their tongue?
How long is their tongue? It's not like an anteater tongue. Even though they're relatives, but it's a few inches long, enough to get that insect.
Very nice. And let's just give everybody a little bit of a recap here. We are here in Nature's Neighborhood with our southern three-banded armadillo, Chris. He is about 10 years old. His birthday's coming up, and if you want to come see him when the zoo reopens, he is in the aviary near the sloths and the tamarin. And as you can see, he's curled up in a ball right now, but and he's peeking out looking at us, his nose is twitching. We had him out in this little arena, and he ran around, and we listened to him tip-tap on his front claws, and we've talked about his shell and what he eats and where these guys are from. So we hope you guys have enjoyed this. Tune in each weekday at 10:30. We'll be doing more of these looks behind the scenes at the zoo. Remember, your zoo is still open online, and if you'd like to support us during this closure, go ahead and go to toledozoo.org/donate. And we really appreciate everyone tuning in and keeping us in your thoughts and in your Facebook feeds, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow.